This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor live from beautiful Palm Beach, as you can see right behind you here. And you can hear the water, and it's a little bit more relaxing on a day that you don't imagine was terribly relaxing. Well, maybe, unless if you kept the news off, it would be nice and relaxing. Probably always is nice and relaxing if you keep the news off. But then again, if you do, you're going to get brainwashed by the communists who are trying to take over our country. Um, Today, in the Stormy Daniels trial, she was literally ripped to shreds on cross-examination. What good that will do with a judge who will not declare a mistrial when there's never, ever been more of a case for a mistrial. I mean, the rules of evidence have been thrown out. Due process has been destroyed. I mean, even if we put all the rules aside, the judge himself set down rules, and she violated them all, and he didn't declare a mistrial. I don't know what you have to do. Maybe if she shoots somebody in the courtroom, he'll declare a mistrial, or maybe not. He'll say, "Well, the jury. I'll just tell the jury to ignore it." From the outset, we've told you. No need to tell you once again that this guy is a political hack of the worst kind, and there's the face of judicial corruption. That's it. That'll be the face of judicial corruption in history. If this picture is in a history book, it'll be he conducted the most unfair trial in the history of New York, all brought about by his being a Democrat suck-up, a guy not even elected to the bench, not even elected. 22 years of sucking around the Democrat politicians so that he can be on the bench. I mean, that's pathetic. He's pathetic. And if anybody could tolerate what he tolerated in court the other day, even if he had set down the guidelines, he's not really a judge. He's a political piece of crap. Then, of course, we have his daughter making money off this, attacking Trump. And we have a new revelation that really just knocked me out. Now, why would this knock me out? This is a very small contribution. I think might not even be $15. You know what the name of the organization was? This is the judge presiding over the trial that could determine the next president of the United States. The name of the organization he gave the money to was Stop Trump. You got a judge sitting on your case who has given money to an organization to stop you. And the best way to stop you is to allow the trial to go completely off the rails, as he admitted he did. Conduct a trial that's a disgrace to American law enforcement and justice, and then do nothing about it. And then when it gets reversed on appeal, it's too late because you have stopped Trump. The other organizations also are, progressives for a good communist. I'm making this up, but it's progressives, Democrats, could be progressives for a new communist America. His wife makes contributions to Biden. Also, he's contributed to Biden. He's contributed to every imaginable, I shouldn't say this. The daughter works for every imaginable left-wing Biden cause possible, and they're making her rich for doing this. Biden is calling all these shots. We found that out in some of the other cases. And we know this one. The guy sitting in court, Colangelo, please understand, was the number 3 guy in Biden's Justice Department just a short while ago. I was the number 3 guy in Reagan's Justice Department. You get close to the president when you have that position. I got so close to him, I became a good friend of Nancy Reagan, and I was on the board of the Reagan Library for 10 years. I don't know if I was put in by Ronald Reagan to prosecute Mondale in May of the election year. What do you think would have happened? Something fair and just would have happened. Like, I would have really been disbarred, not framed. Do you understand how horrendous this is? Maybe not. If you're not, I don't know. It's hard for me. I mean, I know people are upset about it, and I just think the country should be just beyond. When what happened on, was it Monday? On Monday happened. He says, these are the guide rails. You can't talk about this. This is what they do. And then he says, oh, I think it went too far. Mistrial. Of course. Of course, Judge. This jury can't be repaired anymore. Gosh almighty, they started off 90% Democrats anyway. Now they hear all of this irrelevant testimony that may or may not be true. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's not relevant. Or its relevancy, as I think you've probably heard explained many, many times if you follow this case, is of such minimal importance, it is outweighed by its prejudicial effect, which is monumental. I don't think there's a judge ever in any case that would ever have not given a mistrial here, except a crooked one from the place that fosters crooked judges, the Manhattan Supreme Court. There's the face of the Manhattan Supreme Court, a completely unjust man, a disgrace to the legal profession, and a disgrace that none of the lawyers in New York are standing up against him because we don't really have lawyers much in New York. We got a bunch of suckers who suck your money, charge you more than anybody else. I should know. I was one of them. Believe me, I didn't charge you more than was fair, ever. I don't do things like that, which is one of the reasons I'm in the trouble that I'm in. It also completely baffles me that we are at this stage of the case. Not only have we not proved a crime, which is unusual, but sometimes you don't prove it until the last witness, I guess. Though I can't think of a case like that. Usually you try to prove it with the first witness and then corroborate it, but that's okay. This really isn't a case. This is we're finding out what a political persecution is going to look like in communist America, run by, Soros's people and Klaus Schwab and Prince Obama. But the reality is, I asked a lawyer this today. I'm starting to go a little crazy. How can you try a case and not charge him with a crime? I know. The indictment says a crime. But you're not supposed to say a crime. You're supposed to say the crime. Now, why? So you can defend yourself. The lawyer said to me, Mayor, come on. This thing's a complete fix. Everybody knows it. The whole world knows it. I mean, except maybe a couple of wacky Democrats. He said, I'm a Democrat. I know it's a big fix. There's no doubt Trump's going to get convicted. And there actually is some doubt it'll be reversed because you got a bunch of scumbags on the Court of Appeals, too. Not as many. And then you got the judge. Now, and a really fascinating thing here, and we talked about this, is the case that really would require a mistrial is Weinstein, particularly if they call McDougal now, because McDougal is completely extraneous to the charges in the case. The other one is relevant, but not for the purposes of a sexual act. This one is completely extraneous. That's exactly what happened in Weinstein. They called three women who were extraneous to the facts of the case, who said, things about sexual encounters with Weinstein, and the Court of Appeals reversed. I'll agree, 100 years of precedent to let him out. They also did something I doubt they're going to do for Trump. Two judges recused themselves for no reason. Merchan has 50. They had none. And then the chief judge picked two judges, which I'm trying to find out. I can't find the law that allows you to do that. But he picked two judges, and they were the two who voted with him that reversed the Weinstein case so that Harvey could go free and have a new trial, which Bragg is never going to do because Bragg is bought off too. So it would be odd, but the precedent that would surely require a mistrial is the fixed Weinstein case. So is Judge Merchan going to say, I'm not going to rely on it because it looks like it was fixed? And the 100-year precedent is really the law? I don't think he can do that. He certainly doesn't have the guts to do it. And actually, come to think of it, it probably isn't the law. You're stuck with the damn precedent. The Court of Appeals has to fix it. You can't. What it basically is the prior bad acts both prohibition and exception. So you generally are not allowed to put in prior bad acts of a defendant because it prejudices the jury from considering the one specific act that's on trial. There's a little bit of doubt as to the common sense of that because it is true that people who commit crimes are more prone to commit them again. But okay, the jury wants to give you relief from that prejudicial impact because American jurisprudence basically says it would overwhelm the jury too much if they heard about these prior acts, and then they wouldn't concentrate enough. They wouldn't concentrate enough on the facts of the case. So here they put in three of them, three women, and they reversed Harvey's case. Well, that would argue that everything that Stormy said, except for the business relationship part of it, was completely prejudicial, unnecessary, and should result in both a reversal. But a judge, before a reversal, is duty bound to declare a mistrial if you violated the law. Judges aren't supposed to send cases up to the Court of Appeals that have 50 reversible errors in them. Otherwise, they shouldn't be on the bench. I mean, this may be why he's never been voted on. I mean, they could do what they did with Anger Moron and vote on him with no opponent 3 times and make it look like he was elected so that Keith Wright, the Democratic boss, and all the other Democratic bosses could say, oh, he was elected our way. Our way is the Soviet communist way, the Nazi Germany way, the Chinese communist way, no opponent. That's Anger Moron 3 times. He's never had an opponent. You think that's because he's such a fine jurist? You've seen him. You've seen him. If you think he's a fine jurist, boy, you're bad at judging people. Most judges I met didn't go, nor did they have their law clerk sit on their lap. Law clerk, sorry, agent of the Democrat dictatorship. So Bragg has not had to define the crime that he committed. The real crime here is, why was this allegedly false entry entered? What's the motive for it? Because that's what makes it a felony. If the motive for it is to commit a felony, then it is a felony and you get punished accordingly. And the statute of limitation extends. Well, you would think by now they would tell you what the felony is. Or how about this? This is not the criminal law doesn't exist at the sufferance of the arbitrary prosecutor or the dictatorial prosecutor. The prosecutor is required to tell you. Now, you want to know why and how he's required. Well, let's try the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, which grants you due process. Probably one of the most fundamental things in due process is to be afforded the facts of the charge against you. Otherwise, you can't defend yourself. I mean, they've already done it to him once when that other crazy nut who says that he assaulted her in some way in one of the most crowded department stores in New York when he was one of the best known people in New York. But she can't give the date, the time, the year. I mean, that case shouldn't even be tried. How can you? Sometime in a 3-year period, Ted, you beat somebody up. And his name is Jones. Jones says you beat him up. You say, well, I never beat up Jones. That's not correct. I think I remember meeting a Jones or not or whatever, but I never hit him. I haven't hit anybody in that period of time. You'd say, well, Jones says you did. Well, could you tell me the day and the time and the place? Sorry. We can't. I'll tell you what, it was between 2003 and 2006. Could you tell me at what time of day? Well, it was while the department store was open. In other words, anywhere from 8 until 10 at night. That's right. I see. And it was in a public place. No, well, it wasn't a public place, but behind like a little, very, very shallow, very thin dressing. It was in a dressing room. In other words, I punched this guy. I'm being charged with punching this guy in a dressing room sometime within a 3-year period. You can't even tell me the day of the week. And there were no witnesses to it. And you're charging me anyway. You just don't like me? No, we don't want you to be president. I mean, let's be truthful with each other. We just don't want you to be president. And in America, when Democrats control, you're allowed to do that because we're a Democrat dictatorship. And here in New York, we really are. And we've been a Democrat dictatorship 150 years. Well, they just reaffirmed it by electing Hochul, Pokel, and Adams. And look at the job they're doing. Adams made a very nice $5,000 contribution to the monument that they wrote on. He didn't do much about the riots and the protests, however, that went on for 2.5 weeks, where he said absurdly, ridiculously, and idiotically, "I can't go in unless I'm invited." That's the new rule here in New York: law enforcement by invitation only, which Adams will now follow. As 3 youngsters got shot, I don't know, is he flying to Rome right now? He just went to Miami, stopped off in New York to make, I think he made the contribution, stopped off in New York and made the contribution. And of course, the silly press went, wow, he made a contribution. Maybe if he had done his job, it wouldn't have happened. How about that? The idea is to prevent crime, not to have it happen and then pay money. Mayor, or are you really? Do I really have to call you that? Because I was once one. I was like a real one. What they do about the Democrat Party is unbelievable. No, in 2018, she signed a document that it never took place. Stormy Daniels did. Yeah. I'm denying this affair because it never happened. She wrote that. I never asked for money for money from anyone in particular. All she did is ask for money, and of course the evidence is replete. Daniels admitted to selling the story for nearly $1 million. That was after she said she never asked for money. Daniels appeared to tell a different story today than the one she has told most recently. Ms. Nicholas said, you told In Touch a completely different story. Parts in the middle, there were just parts in the middle I didn't remember. Daniels said In Touch, I left out a lot of stuff because they couldn't fact check. The In Touch story was written in 2011, but wasn't published until after the 2016. One would think in 2011 she would have remembered more than 10 years later, unless she has a gifted memory like Biden. You made it up, Nicholas said. Daniels replied, no, of course. Well, of course. Daniels went on to discuss the bedroom where the alleged encounter took place. None of this should be allowed in evidence, by the way. Saying it was far away from the front door and saying that she couldn't leave the room because Trump's bodyguard was allegedly outside the door. But Nicholas reminded her on cross-examination that in yet another interview with Vogue magazine, Daniels was quoted as saying that there were no threats during the alleged encounter, and she asserted nothing was holding her in the room. Nicholas went on to ask Daniels if she knew or understood why Trump was indicted, to which she said no, and added that he was indicted for a lot of things. No, he wasn't. He was indicted for 2 things. One, we don't know what he was indicted for. What she could say is, well, we really don't know what he was indicted for because we haven't been told yet. He was indicted because someone in his company had made an entry in 2017 that said legal fees. And according to the prosecutor, that was a false entry. And he is indicted for doing that in pursuance of another felony, which they haven't told us what it is. 2 things, nothing else. So that's, again, a lie, an exaggeration, enormously prejudicial, and no mistrial. And the jury, I'm not even sure the jury was told to disregard it. Nicholas declared that Daniel's story has changed so many times because she never had an affair with Trump but wanted to earn money. That's about as reasonable an explanation as hers. I mean, remember, I don't know if anybody realizes this, but I mean, the government's got to prove this, not Trump. And it's got to prove it not by a preponderance of the evidence, not by like, here's the way it goes, not by 50-50, but beyond all reasonable doubt. Now, not all doubt, but all reasonable doubt This thing is filled with doubt, reasonable and real. When a woman tells three different lines here, and this is very, after all, this is not a frightened little baby girl. This is a person who 170, 180, 190 times made a fortune letting people see her entire body and, negotiating acts like, well, you know what, doing things that most women, I don't think, would do on camera. Okay, I'll get in real trouble now. I do not believe that most decent women would do oral sex on camera. What? What do you think? I mean, I'm a child of that opinion, aren't I? Without being like anti-feminine? Is it possible that I'm actually more respectful of females if I say that? Of course it is. Is it also possible I'm more respectful of females that says that a big, strong man can't come into a swimming contest and make it impossible for a woman to win or walk into a woman's bathroom and rape her? Is it possible that I'm more of a feminist than the ones who allow that? Yeah, it's not only possible, it's correct. I'm also more of a decent human being than they are. Did she understand why he was indicted? For a lot of things. So, I mean, I could go through this. This I think is a summary from Brooke Singman of Fox News. So thank you, Brooke, for the summary. All right. That's her. Now they're debating whether to call a Daniels, who would be, even if possible, more irrelevant, and actually would completely implicate the Weinstein case. Be interesting to see how the lying, crooked Democratic hack, never elected judge will handle that one. Is he not going to follow the Weinstein case? How is he going to distinguish it? And will he distinguish it on the basis, let's not say fixed, that it was irregularly decided by a panel of two judges that we can't figure out how they got on the court?
So explain that again, Mayor, because I don't think
the public doesn't understand it. Yeah. And the press doesn't make
cover. Not one press outlet.
The press always sucked up to Harvey. I mean, they covered up his crimes for years. Yeah. And he's a Democrat, big Democrat donor. You think if he was a Republican donor, he wouldn't have been executed by now? I'm going to make it the Supreme Court, okay? Because it's easy for the Supreme Court. Suppose two justices of the Supreme Court, any two, Amy Coney Bryan and Sotomayor.
Okay.
One liberal, one. They said, we're recusing ourselves.
Okay.
The chief judge might ask why. We're not going to tell you. Now, they don't have to, but they should. If they're decent judges, they should be transparent. But in any event, they didn't tell us why, which leaves you suspect.
Yeah.
That they have a good reason other than the Democrat boss who got them there in the first place. Like,
of course,
like all of these people said, off the case, pal. We got to make room for somebody who's going to, let Harvey out. And then the judge appointed two substitute judges. I don't get that. I don't know where that comes from. Now, I'm looking up the law for 2 nights. I can't find it. Judge Roberts couldn't say after those two judges stepped down, well, I'll pick 2 liberal judges from the Ninth Circuit and put them on for this case. Yeah. Or I'll pick 2 conservative judges from the Fourth Circuit and put them on the case. Or any judges from there's no such thing as an acting Supreme Court justice. I didn't think there was an acting Court of Appeals judge. I may be wrong. But then you got to take a look at, well, who did he pick and what's the motive?
Yeah.
Well, we know what the motive is. They voted with him. Had he not put them on, it was a 4-3 vote. So now a 4-3 vote, what does it become if 2 people aren't there? A 2-3 vote, and the case is affirmed and Harvey stays in the camp. You wonder why? Now, nobody will even listen to me because they're afraid. There are things that people are afraid of that only I am not afraid of, I'm beginning to believe. But this is worthy of an investigation. Once again, the vote was 4-3. 2 judges dropped out. Boom. Normally, you would expect the case would go ahead with a 5-judge court, right?
Yeah, right.
The way when a judge recuses himself on the Supreme Court, we don't appoint a designated hitter. Only the Congress gets to do that.
Yeah.
This very partisan Democrat judge, who was very much criticized for being appointed in the first place, even by the sacred New York Times, for being highly partisan and appointed for only one political purpose, to overturn their gerrymandering decision so he could make it pro-democratic. And he got a good judge that was originally nominated by Hochul, who the Democratic crooks in the legislature didn't want. Now, you want the story on that?
Yeah.
The Democratic crooks in the legislatures didn't want him because they wanted a gerrymander unfairly, illegally, and improperly, and in violation of the decision of their Court of Appeals a year before. But they wanted that case reversed. And they were afraid that if this guy became a judge who has written opinions that they didn't like on abortion and something else, I don't know, I actually don't know how conservative or not he is. When the New York Times describes somebody as conservative, he basically is someone who has just been in the Communist Party for a year or two. He hasn't been in there for 20 years. I mean, they don't even know what a conservative is. But yeah, I'm assuming this guy may actually be honest. Oh, would that make it an unusual New York Supreme Court judge from New York City? Please, the rest of you in the state, some of you got problems, most of you don't. Not attacking all of you. All I am doing is telling you your reputation is getting really shit on. Ooh. This guy, Mershon, is doing more damage to you than Judge Aurelia did with Carmine DeSapio and the Mafia. Nobody even remembers who that is. They'll remember who this guy is. There was a time in which the Mafia, through Carmine DeSapio, the head of the Democratic Party, as they say in The Godfather, had a lot of judges in their pocket. That means, hey, little twit, let Gotti out.
Here's
Let the jury go home for the weekend.
And judges would work?
When the Democrat boss shows up, the judge shows up.
Yeah.
The judge's not the judge. The Democrat boss ultimately is the judge.
Because they appoint the judges.
Yeah, and they'll completely crucify them if they don't do what they want.
Yeah.
And on a political case, there's not even a choice. They know what they have to do.
Yeah.
As my law professor told me, there are some really good state Supreme Court justices. You'll be surprised, and you'll get good decisions on a lot of cases, even ideologically, contrary. On politics, forget it. Don't even think about it. You're not on the Democrat side, you're losing.
You're losing.
Maybe 1 out of 10 times you'll get an exception to that, like we did on gerrymandering. But they fixed that, didn't they?
Yeah.
They got rid of the chief judge. They got rid of the proposed chief judge because he wasn't fixable enough. They got themselves a guy that was a complete puppet. He did exactly what they wanted on that. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, he goes and pulls 2 people out of the court below that agree with him on a case that would have gone 3-2 against him. And it lets a man off from an extraordinarily serious crime in a state that's supposed to be pro-women. State's not pro-anything. It's not pro-women. It's not pro-black. It's not pro-anything. It's pro the pockets of the Democrat tyrants who run it. And you let them do it.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Looks like in Wisconsin, we got some of that coming back. I do not believe that Biden is leading in Wisconsin. Based on what? Well, I think the kangaroo court is backfiring. And I do think what has happened is that should there be a conviction, don't know that it's going to have much of an impact. And we might be looking at one of those indictment impacts. If there is a conviction, it may turn out that he gains 2-3 points.
Yeah, right.
Because the case is playing out like a complete frame up. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to show you how it's a real fight to save your children. I'll tell you that. Wow. A real fight. Dance to win. We'll be back very shortly, if I still have a hand. delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. We'll come back to America's Mayor Live, and I'm going to catch you up real quick, like on the things that you're not going to find out too much elsewhere. Manolo de los Santos is the ringleader of a lot of the protesters who got to protest freely and regularly without any intervention, much like at the colleges by out-of-town Adams. Who wasn't here, wasn't around, didn't care, and said, I got to be invited in. Well, Manoa has now been arrested 2 or 3 times on disorderly conduct, pushing people around, doing all kinds of stuff. Manoa has not seen the inside of a jail at all because Bragg is spending his time trying to put Trump in jail on a frame-up. I mean, can you imagine how many criminals are going free because of the Trump case? And the resources they're wasting on that case. They could be catching the criminals who are raping you, beating you, robbing from you, stealing from you, taking your car, or punching you in the face, like 2 people got punched today just for no reason. No, but whether his statement, the legal fee is true or false, is more relevant. So he has to, it's his obligation to prove that it's false. Beyond a reasonable doubt. How is legal fee false beyond a reasonable doubt when the money was paid to a lawyer to reimburse, presumably? That could be easily described as a legal fee. Oh, maybe legal payment. We're gonna go into jail because of the difference in payment and fee when he didn't even write. Trump didn't even write this. Somebody else did. But Manolo de los Santos can gin up about 3 different riots, encourage people to break into buildings and go free. Or a guy like James Carlson, who's 40. You all should get to know James Carlson. He's 40 years old. He's a son of a millionaire ad executive. Very privileged, Mr. Carlson is. Something of a big sissy, but a very, very... he's described here in the Post as a longtime anarchist with the rap sheet going back to 2005. He was busted for taking part and possibly leading the rioters' vandalism and occupation of Columbia Hall, Hamilton Hall. And then he got slapped with another charge for destroying a camera in the prison, in the holding cell.
Wow.
He was also at the January 27 protest where he was arrested.
Wow.
He wants to put Trump in jail, and he was set free. This guy was set free. However, the guy met his match. The guy met his match at Columbia. Columbia's, I mean, Bragg is no match for him. Bragg just lets him out. But he met up with he met up with our hero from yesterday, who was 50 years old, and really let him have it. Pinned him up against a wall. Never got arrested, but we'll show you that a little later. Okay. So Manolo de los Santos, remember that name. He'll be back during the summer, because they're all being told to repeat 2020, and Soros has got the dough to do it, like he did in 2020.
That's right.
And Soros is throwing around the anti-Semitic thing on the New York Post for saying that he contributes money to all these causes, and he does, and that it's anti-Semitic to say that. It actually is the opposite. I mean, the guy himself is anti-Semitic. The guy is a Jew hater. He's against the state of Israel. He's got a history from the time he was young of turning in Jewish property to the Nazis. Where the hell does he come off saying somebody's anti-Semitic who's trying to save Israel? Now,
it's the opposite.
How many lies did Biden tell yesterday? How is it possible that he's ahead in Wisconsin? What's wrong with you in Wisconsin? It used to be like a moral state. Let's go with the substantive one. The first one. When he came into office, he can't talk like that. Only when they juice him up with.
Yeah.
Well, I came
There you
into office.
That's more like it.
Inflation was 9%, and I brought it down. Inflation was 1.4%, one of the lowest it's ever been. You brought it up to a 50-year record. Now you've brought it down, but still way ahead of what Trump's number was. And what you just said there was a total, absolute freaking lie. Can we play his absolute, total freaking lie so that people will stop voting for him? I mean, do you really want
in office? 9%.
Inflation was actually 1.4% when Biden was sworn in, peaking at 9.1% in June 2022. It has since come down to 3.5%, preventing a further drop. Housing.
Let's play it again, just the beginning here.
Sure.
In office. 9%.
Inflation was actually 1.4% when Biden.
And then it went to 9%. He's brought it down to 3.5%, and Trump was, below like mid 2%. He's about 40% ahead of Trump now, and it's going up. It just went up last month. But the main thing is not even what inflation is or isn't, which he's lied about constantly. So when he says it was 9% when he came into office, so we could come up with a couple of reasons for it, right? It's the perennial 35 to 40 years of being a pathological, mentally ill liar who, said he was on he was on a train on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. For 30 years, he took the train and there is no train, that kind of thing. Or he gave his uncle a medal at the White House at a particular ceremony, a Purple Heart, 7 years after his uncle was dead, and there's no record of his uncle getting a Purple Heart. Or that he was first in his law school class when he was just about pulling up the bottom and cheated to stay in by plagiarizing. This is not just an ordinary liar. This is not just an ordinary pathological liar. This is a mentally ill liar. Dangerous because we don't know what world he lives in. And he's getting people killed as a result of the fact he doesn't know what world he lives in. And thank God they disabled the button. Because who knows, he'd maybe just blow up the world to see the fireworks. This is the kind of nut job we got sitting there when you hear things like this. So Biden is lying about inflation. Now let's go from the ridiculous to the absurd. So the real absurd was when he said his uncle was eaten by the cannibals and offended the country of New Guinea. And also suggested to them that he's a racist. By the way, he is. You don't have to think about it. I'm starting to think he hates Jews too, with the way he's double-crossing them and lying to them. and lying about them. I mean, you don't like people, you double cross and lie and get them killed like that. But in any event, I have here the perfect guy for this, an owner of the Green Bay Packers. And let's go through this football thing where he's like you. He's a Green Bay fan. Well, we don't know why, because somebody let him out of class early, or because his professor was drafted by them. That's one of the reasons why. And he's a very loyal Green Bay fan. Well, he's not a very loyal anything. Father, grandfather, president. He's a traitor. But you're going to see he's a traitor in football too. So let's go. Let's start with. Shall we start with his being a
Let's start with the clip we have. Yeah.
High school in Delaware that overwhelmingly rooted for Green Bay. Not a joke, I'll tell you why. Every single Sunday. Not only did they have great teams at the time, we still do, but not only that, my theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name, and he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and he decided to become a priest before that, so he didn't go. But every single solitary Monday that Green Bay won, we got the last period of the day off.
And what's the fact checking?
Fact check. Packers didn't draft his high school theology professor, turns out. They drafted one player with the last name even remotely close to that in 1947, and that individual went on to become a major general in the U.S. Army. He did not.
Let's go back and listen to it one more time.
High school in Delaware that overwhelmingly rooted for Green Bay. Not a joke, I'll tell you why. Every single Sunday. Not only did they have great teams at the time, we still do, but not only that, my theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named...
You know, he forgot what he usually says. He usually, because he said this 3 or 4 times before, and where he says every single Sunday, he says, Father Danny, I think, Danny, who was a Norbertine priest.
Yeah.
And the Norbertines are up by Green Bay.
Green Bay.
He was a Green Bay fan, and every time the Packers won, we got off a little early on Monday. This is when you are not senile and you have a good memory, like Giuliani does. That's what he normally said. Now, he was beginning to say that, but because he's demented, he couldn't remember. So he makes up a lie. Now, listen to the rest of it.
High school in Delaware that overwhelmingly rooted for Green Bay. Not a joke, I'll tell you why. Every single Sunday. Not only did they have great teams at the time, we still do, but not only that, my theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name, and he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and he decided to become a priest before that, so he didn't go. But every single solitary Monday that Green Bay won, we got the last period of the day off.
Then he brought it in.
And we're back.
So,
wow, what
about the following statement?
You're writing it down?
Decided to become a priest before that. Before that refers to before he was drafted.
That's funny.
So what do they draft a priest?
I mean, Vince Lombardi almost,
maybe Vince Lombardi drafted him and never told anybody.
Priesthood.
Well, maybe he didn't tell anybody. Who knows?
Just like you.
So now, okay. There he is sucking up to the people. Obviously, it worked. He's ahead by 6 points in Wisconsin. Are you ashamed of yourself in Wisconsin? He gets ahead by sucking up to you about the Green Bay Packers with a false story. But maybe this will really dissuade you. Now let's see him say with equal amount of fawning, kissing ass intonations that he's a big giant fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, and not telling the Eagle fans that he also is a Green Bay fan. This is so he can suck up to Pennsylvania.
Hold on.
Is this because he's demented or because he's a scoundrel with no character? He's a scoundrel with no character.
Followers in South Jersey and Philly, 10 million people, and we all root for the same teams. We eat the same hoagies. We do that, you know. And so this is a shot in the arm for the Delaware Valley in a way that it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain.
And you married a Philly girl.
I married a Philly girl, and by the way, the Philly fans are the most knowledgeable fans in the world, and boy, can they be tough.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Joe, because we're from Boston. Right? We've had a lot of parades, and you got a rambunctious group of fans. So any message to the fans out there, okay, as far as because they're going to celebrate, and you have a beautiful city. So any message out there? Are they going to start greasing the poles, make sure nobody climbs up those poles?
I think they're going to be good. Look.
But it is a pretty big deviation. It's not like first-term abortion or rape and life of the mother. It's if the mother decides at 8 months she don't want the kid anymore, you can pull the kid out and kill it. This is the very good Catholic Joe. Apparently, he didn't learn that that's murder in the Catholic school, but he did learn to be a Packer fan, except when he wants to suck up to the Eagles. Also, he learned how to be an entirely dishonest, dishonorable man without honor, which is a disgrace. I mean, with that perverted family in the White House, only an odor comes out of it. And why you're thinking about voting for it is so far beyond anything I can imagine. My goodness. My goodness. So let's take a short break.
Yeah.
And we'll be back. And we will discuss what's going on here in the case in Florida, which may end up putting Jack Smith and his associate Brat in jail. Would be good. They belong there.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Dak. And welcome back to America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. The fastest song on the internet, as we like to say.
Here's my hero. I got it kind of confused before with that other guy. But here's my hero. It is not because he's got a Yankee hat. I'm going to tell you why I'm so upset about this. When I was mayor, they suggested I wear a hat that I think Ed Koch might have worn and several other politician-type mayors where it's the Yankee thing on the front and the Met thing on the back. Well, first of all, I always thought they looked like half-wits wearing it. And I'm a Yankee fan. I said, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm gonna be honest as a mayor. If you're gonna be honest, you got to be honest. So I'm gonna say I'm a Yankee fan, and the Met fans will appreciate it because I don't dislike the Mets. There are people, who hate the Mets. People in, the later generations, they develop more of a animosity toward the other team. I've never understood that. But in any event, I'm a Yankee fan. If the Mets win in the National League and they go to the World Series or the playoffs, I'm for them. I used to go to their games and root for them, even when I wasn't mayor. And even after.
You went to Mets games before you were mayor.
Oh, I went to the World Series games in '93.
When the Mets were in it and the Yankees were not.
Yeah, the Mets almost.
Oh, in '93 you were, but you were the biggest figure. I'm saying growing up, did you ever go to Mets games?
Of course I did.
Okay, so
I
they
went to a game in Montreal.
Okay, so they were like a second favorite.
When Tommy Agee played center field, I was there the year that they won the World. I cheered for them.
What about Dodger games when you were really young?
No. Dodgers are different. The Dodgers were our sworn enemy, and my mother's family were all Dodger fans. I grew up in Brooklyn, 1 mile from Ebbets Field until I was 7, and I had to learn how to fight in order to protect my life. I was almost lynched as a Yankee fan.
That's where you got so tough. That's where you earned your toughness.
My cousins and my father taught me how to box. And
being a Yankees fan,
I found out that one Yankee fan could take 5 Brooklyn fans.
Being a Yankees fan in Dodger territory, that's where it all started.
It made me tough. I mean, this was no joke. If I was actually got a little break because I was a Yankee fan. If I were a Giant fan, they'd kill me. They did hate the Giants more than the Yankees.
Mets weren't even around yet.
Of course not. There were 2 National League teams in New York. The oldest one and the most popular way back were the Giants. Then the Dodgers came in, and the Dodgers for a long time were terrible. They were like the Mets were, but for a much longer period of time. They were known as the Bums, the Brooklyn Bums. In fact, I believe one of the headlines when they finally beat the Yankees in 1 out of 7 World Series, the headlines were "Bums Win." And they had a figure, like a figure of a guy with almost like a black eye and a bat, and he looked like a hobo. But they were the Brooklyn Bums because they always lost. And they lost an inordinate number of World Series to the Yankees, very close. There were times in which, even as a young boy, I was always a very objective fan. I thought the Dodgers had better teams. We just had a hex on.
Jackie Robinson.
No, if you just lined up their hitting and their pitching, they had a little edge on us. Here's how we had an edge. Ebbets Field was a right-handed hitter's field. Yankee Stadium is a left-handed hitter's field. The Dodgers never were smart enough to get themselves 2 left-handed power hitters. They had one, Duke Snider. And if you want to know the reason for Yankee great success, the great teams, it's 2 really frightening left-handed power hitters. I'll give you the most obvious ones: Ruth Gehrig, Mantle Maris, Mantle Berra, Reggie Jackson.
Mr. October.
It wasn't until, I think, A-Rod that any Yankee right-handed hitter got 50 home runs or more.
Ever?
That's included Joe DiMaggio. But Joe DiMaggio was in a right field that was 50 feet bigger, was in a center field that was 50 feet bigger than the one in the middle era Yankee Stadium. He would have to hit the ball like 500 feet to hit a home run. And he used to hit enough. There was always the thought that if he and Williams had traded, both of them would have beaten Ruth's record. If he had gotten the short porch, and Ruth had gotten the short fence, and the other guy had gotten the short porch, who knows what they could have done. Now, it's always a little crazy because I've seen guys that the Yankees went and got so they could hit down the line, and they ruined themselves trying to hit down the line. And then I've seen guys go to Boston to try to go over that fence, and all they do is hit doubles. You got to have a natural. I always thought the one guy that I would guarantee, if he played his entire career there, would have been the legitimate home run king, Darryl Strawberry. If you took that uppercut swing of Darryl Strawberry and the strength that he had to hit to all parts of the field, I think you'd have put it over the fence 1 out of 2 times. He would have been by far the most frightening hitter. And I remember he played for the Yankees for a short while, helped him win a World Series. And every time he was in Ebbets Field, you could see. I mean, nobody understands that wall better than the Red Sox.
The Yankees short porch?
No, the wall in Fenway.
Oh, no one understands it better besides the Red Sox.
The plus and the minuses of it.
Okay.
It turns a line drive home run hitter into a doubles hitter.
Yeah.
If you can't, you could.
You got it.
It's only about 200 and something feet to go over, but it's got to fly in the air.
It's got to go.
Let's see. Let's say you hit what would normally be a 420-foot moderate drive, moderate in height.
Yeah.
It goes right into the wall.
Bounces right into the wall.
Whereas in Yankee Stadium, it'd be in the fourth row. So it gives and it takes.
Yeah.
The fence gives and takes.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a Yankee or a Red Sox, you know that fence better than anybody. The Yankees study it as the opponents. The Red Sox study it for defense.
And yeah, they play there. Yeah.
But I don't know if you remember in Fort Myer, they tried to recapture that fence at their minor league park.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, you were there.
Oh, you didn't go with me?
I didn't go.
Oh, yeah.
But you were there, and I've heard that.
Yeah, but they don't make it high enough because they want to give people a chance to get home runs over it. I think that's a mistake because that's where they fail. They think all you got to do is loft the ball, but you got to loft the ball really high. Otherwise, it's going to get caught at the top of the fence. So here's the janitor I really wanted to talk about because he's the real hero. You see that little billionaire sissy he's pushing around?
Yeah.
That guy is half his age from Colombia. Big, tough protester. Can't even handle himself against a janitor half his age. This is what we're doing. I mean, all these people are sissy boys. What are we doing with the Boy Scouts? They're not even boys anymore. Who the hell's going to defend us? Sissy boys? Or people, they're not even boys. You can't say, I'm sorry. I can't even say sissy boys. I got to say.
What did you change it to?
I don't know. Organization of confused adolescents. I don't know.
Scouting America?
Scouting for what?
Let's see what it is. Yeah, the Boy Scouts.
Do they have the Girl Scouts anymore?
Scouting America. And it's not even, I thought this might have been a joke. They got rid of the name Boy Scouts.
Yeah. You see the guy explain it?
Yeah.
I look at that guy and I say to myself, you ain't getting my son back.
Yeah. I might not be doing Boy Scouts. My kids might not. Comment below if you have children. If you have young
children. Keep them away from the 57 different gender scouts.
Yeah. That's sad. I laugh.
No. They're going to allow the kid to explore all 57 genders. By the time he's finished, he'll be so confused he'll be in the nut house, which is what happens actually. So do you know that most students, 67%, believe that occupying a building is illegal and unacceptable, even if you're on a campus, although Fat Moore thinks it's okay. 58% said that the same thing for refusing orders to disperse. They think it's criminal. You should be arrested. And only 8% of young people that they could find participated in any way with the protest. Sounds like the young people are smarter than the fat slob and others. I want to show you a face. Remember, we're looking at faces. This is a face of Biden's America. This guy was invited into the United States by Joe Biden, most prominently at the Democratic convention in 2000, when he said you should all line up at the border. Surge to the border was the word, right? You should all surge to the border and I'll let you in. Well, this guy took it seriously. He came in, he didn't waste any time. Within a short period of time, he killed and attacked a beautiful young lady. I have a hard time with this one. Laken Riley. I got a hard time with this one because I investigated crimes over and over for so long, and I did everything I could to bring crime down in New York. And I realized that some crime, I don't know. I used to say to my cops, because every year we tried to bring it down more and more, and then Mike Bloomberg and Ray Kelly did an admirable, really good job of bringing it down even more. And I used to say, there's got to be a point at which we can't do it anymore. I mean, we don't have complete control over crime. God does in a way. It's the way he makes people. They have free will. But then there are certain crimes didn't have to happen. This is because of Biden. Laken Riley's death is because of Joe Biden. If we were back where we were when Trump left office at 400,000 coming in per month and vetted, as opposed to 3.4 million per month and not vetted, this pervert wouldn't have gotten in. He's a member of a gang. You'd have picked it up. But when I tell you they're not vetted, I mean they're not vetted. Not only that, the Border Patrol acts like an escort service into the United States. When he wants more border agents, don't give it to him. He wants to use them to interfere with the Texas police, keeping them out. I mean, the guy has sold out America completely. I'm talking about Biden. And he couldn't even get the girl's name right. And would never have said her name if Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't suck her. Did you see how pretty she is? She reminds me of a young woman that I practice law with. Looks just like her. I should tell the young, or the now woman before I identify her, but she was a lovely person as well. That poor girl would be alive today if they hadn't cheated and made Joe Biden president. Should we take a poll and ask people, do they think if I should be prohibited from saying that the election of 2020 was stolen?
So comment below. We're going to put this up on the screen.
Nah, come on. I'm being nasty now because I'm very angry, and hurt, deeply hurt.
So as
you don't know why yet, maybe you'll never know, but we'll see. So the really hurt. Because I think this was quite useful as a. If their signs are told the truth, they would say, we'll still vote for Biden. These are the people who don't take a shower, who were at the protests and break into, but it's okay for them to break into other people's offices.
Right.
Didn't Moore say that?
Yeah.
We never got that little piece of his, did we?
We haven't.
Of this stumble bum saying that?
Yeah, I think I got the wrong clip.
Yeah.
So we got to find the next. We'll keep looking for that.
Okay. So here's what it says. Then I'll put it up. Paid for by George Soros. But then you're an anti-Semite if you say that. No more Israel. Hamas would kidnap and murder me, meaning the gay person that has their sign up. I'm just camping out here, whatever that means. We'll still vote for Biden. That looks like a criminal of some sort. Virtual signaling. We're brats who want attention. I like that one. Now, how about this? This would fit right into the one that Ted should get an award for. I don't even know what Zionism means.
That might have been our personal one.
Yeah.
Oh, I have this. We have this.
Want to show this?
I have it on here.
Ben Garrison. Isn't that great? I like the one in the corner there. I don't even know what Zionism means. So what do we have ready? Do we have, I call him Fat Moore. Do we have him encouraging kids to break the law, or do we have the women you made famous for being the prototype, like Mershon is the prototype of the crooked judge, the prototype of the dumb present student of most universities that are dedicated to DEI.
Let's play our student friends.
This is about as dumb as you can get. And if you paid for your kid to be educated like this, you're entitled to your money back.
Goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know all of what NYU is doing.
Is there something that NYU is doing?
I really don't know. I'm pretty sure they're... Do you know what NYU is doing? About what? About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
Palestine will be free!
I wish I was more educated. I'm not either.
Oh.
I came from Columbia. I was there up at Columbia and we came down. They said NYU students needed our support. So I came down. I heard there's lots of cops. Some people were saying it was getting dangerous.
Okay, will you now agree with me that they're brainwashed? I mean, you can't be that stupid. She came down there to protest what NYU is doing to Israel. Of course, people told her that that was going on. But she doesn't know what it is that NYU is doing to Israel or doing for Israel that's so bad. And then she turns to her more intellectual friend who appears to be reading. That could be a stunt. With a mask on, probably so her parents won't see that she's there. And she says that she's not educated on it either. So what the hell are you doing there? I mean, what the hell are you doing there? And is it unfair of me to say you're a bunch of yo-yos, really dangerous to our country?
That's being
I mean,
nice.
you're interfering with a country trying to protect itself against a group of animals that wants to eliminate them. Centuries old problem going back to even before Muhammad, although Muhammad insulated it and in the Quran.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. We've been reading the Quran again lately, just so we don't get into the silliness of saying, oh, it really isn't the Muslim religion. You're darn right it's the Muslim religion. It's the part they won't disavow. Yeah. Muhammad was a trained, extremely effective mass killer. And he focused a lot of his attention on Jews and Christians. And he believed they should be killed, and then eventually changed it into becoming a little more of a mafia type where you got a second option, and that was to pay tribute. So he'd either kill you or you paid him. That's exactly what Don Giuseppe used to do with the poor little Italian immigrants. You either give me 10% of your store or I burn it down. You either become a Muslim, Mr. Jewish person, or Mr. Christian, or I'll kill you, or you can pay me money. Very, very dedicated to the religious thing, right? And this is the prototype for what they're doing. So don't tell me it's a bastardized form of Islam. It's one interpretation of the Quran that's there that needs to be rejected by decent members of the Islamic faith. And we'll just make believe that Muhammad didn't have a second half of his life when he became a organized crime type murderer, mass murderer, and a person who preached hate and killing. That's the way it is. That's the truth. Handle it. If you handle it, we'll fix it. If you don't, we'll be at this forever. There's another version out of Planet of the Apes. Now, I was really turned off when I heard this. I was, Ted. I said, oh my God, there are so many versions of this, right?
Yeah.
I love the first one with Charlton Heston. I love the second one. I think there was the third one. It was starting to get flaky in the third one.
Was that maybe 10, 15 years ago? 20?
Yeah. And then there was one fairly recently. It was terrible.
I'm trying to remember which one I first.
Well, the first one was Charlton Heston.
I must have been the 2001 one is one that I know about.
Oh, well, that's way up. You never saw the original?
No, I know. I don't think I've seen it all the way through. And that's another we got to put on our list. But I just know being a young kid, I remember Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg the 2001 version.
Wahlberg.
I don't think it got great reviews.
It wasn't very good, Mark. I'm sorry. I like you, Mark, but it wasn't. I really do like you. But compared to the Charlton Heston and the second version, I don't remember who was in the second version. I was really against that too, but it came out pretty good.
The second one. Then there's
The Charlton Heston one, features the characters Cornelius and Zeta, and Charlton Heston, and it really was a brilliant. I would say it was a brilliant movie.
Yeah,
I'd say it was a brilliant movie, absolutely brilliant movie.
The Heston version.
Yeah,
which we're going to end on we'll play a clip on the.
But I'm telling you, the review by Johnny Oleksinski gives it 3.5 stars, but almost a better review than 3.5 stars. Seems to think it's quite ingenious in some of the things that it parodies and. So let's see. We'll see.
We'll see.
We're going to go see it. I mean, he
is it out now?
Yeah, he has talked me into going see it. He said,
right.
That's great. The merging of innovation and iconography is what keeps the film fresh. I'm no fan of franchises that overstay their welcome. Hi, Jurassic Park. But if Planet of the Apes can continue to keep up this level of quality, it doesn't yet deserve the gong.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to go check it out, but I want to watch the 1968 version first.
Yeah, we want to show that touching ending of it, which might be describing Biden's America.
Yeah, we want to play that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh. Shall we take that off there?
Yeah, let me start this and I'll do it.
This is after he finally gets free.
Don't try to follow us. I'm pretty handy with this.
Of that I'm sure. All my life I've awaited your coming and dreaded it. Like death itself.
Why? I've terrified you from the first, Doctor. I still do. You're afraid of me and you hate me. Why?
Because you're a man. And you're right. I have always known about man. From the evidence, I believe his wisdom must walk hand in hand with his idiocy. His emotions must rule his brain. He must be a warlike creature who gives battle to everything around him, even himself.
What evidence? There were no weapons in that cave.
The Forbidden Zone was once a paradise. Your breed made a desert of it ages ago.
It still doesn't give me the why. A planet where apes evolved from men? There's got to be an answer.
Don't look for it, Taylor. You may not like what you find.
I'm home. All the time it was. We finally really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
That's pretty good, Moses, huh? Moses did a good job with that scene. That, of course, was Charlton Heston, who played Moses in Ten Commandments, one of the great actors of the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, one of the great human beings ever. And a really, really very fascinating movie that I never thought I would like. I went to see it. I fell in love with it. I've watched it maybe 8 times, that one 8 times. And the second one, I think it was James Franciosa. The second one, I think I've watched about 4 times. And then when I got into the third, and I don't remember if Wahlberg's version was the third or the fourth. But in any event, I'm not going to say it was terrible. I just thought it wasn't up to, even the depiction of the apes wasn't as good as in the 2 others. I mean, those 2 actors and actresses that played Cornelius and Zita were just unbelievably good. So let's hope that this one meets even part of that, which according to the reviewer, it does, because what he's complaining about, if you don't know the whole background, is he's complaining about the fact that they blew up the world, which would have been the Americans and at that time the Soviets. This was pre Ronald Reagan winning that part of the Cold War without firing a shot. One of our greatest presidents ever, who Joe Biden hated. Joe Biden opposed Star Wars completely, and you should know that if he did, that'd have been another way that he would have gotten the people in Israel killed, because they wouldn't have had Iron Dome to save them. Without any doubt, the biggest moron to ever be in federal government in our lifetime. Truly wrong about everything, including when we say Star Wars. That's done to demean it, including not being able to recognize that a missile can shoot down another missile. For that, you got to be really, really stupid. But he's not. It is because he's stupid, but everybody told him to say it too. So just like, if he's a Packer fan and he's a Eagle fan and he's against birth control, but he's a very good Catholic, but he'll turn his back if they kill an 8-month-old and stuff like that. You know what is happening now? Thank God for Governor Abbott, who I do believe should get a lot more credit than he should have been Man of the Year, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Governor Abbott, with an assist to Governor DeSantis, but Abbott, because he did more of it and has more, really made the whole issue of our catastrophic open border understandable to the rest of America, because we were sort of just being our usual narcissistic selves and just worrying about ourselves, particularly in New York, figuring it was some right-wing problem, when all of a sudden Abbott started sending people to the place that originally was inviting them, also the place that Biden was sending them to. Before Abbott sent anybody here, Biden sent well more here by secret airplane flights, which were discovered by, among others, Bernie Carrick, my former police commissioner. We'll have Bernie on and explain it to you. So this idea of sending them to New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Biden is the one who started it. But Abbott picked New York for several reasons. First, Adams was by far the most inviting mayor in the country. He was following on Biden's original invitation to Surge. He was basically selling them on New York being the best place to come. They'd get more health insurance, they'd get more education, get much better housing. It was as if it was a contest to get as many illegals as you could get. For a guy who was a cop, it really was disgusting, because he didn't note the fact that these people weren't being vetted and therefore would contain a disproportionate number of criminals by necessity. I mean, if they're not being vetted, who the hell do you think is going to take advantage of it? Unless you think criminals are as stupid as you are, Adams. So they were sent in large numbers. New York was inviting them the most. It was the most sanctuary of sanctuary cities. And the people had heard about New York. So not only did Abbott hear Big Mouth talk about how wonderful New York was and how inviting it was for illegals, he heard the illegals say, I want to go to New York because Adams is making it so nice. So we ended up with a passing through somewhere around 200,000. Sticking here, well, a while back when I checked, it was 75,000. It's probably pushing 100,000 now. They are creating their own individual crime wave. They're setting up gangs. They're terrorizing neighborhoods. The neighborhoods in which the shelters are, people lock their doors, are very, very worried, don't want their children to go out. There have been a substantial number of sexual crimes. Of course, the Laken Riley thing was nationwide, but by no means does that not happen every day, from petty crimes to major crimes. And they've terrorized neighborhoods of New York, all due to Biden opening the door and Adams inviting them. Even now, Adams gives them a credit card for expense if they don't like the food. He has thrown children out of schools. He's thrown veterans out of the homes for veterans. He's cut budgets in order to make room for them. A firefighter recently was laid off and ended up dying and couldn't get the treatment he wanted, and the family blames it on Adams cutting the fire department to make room for the vast and unbelievable expenses of the migrants that our dopey mayor thought Biden was going to pay for, and Biden told him, go to hell. Then he started criticizing Biden, and Biden started investigating him, and he shut up. He hasn't opened his mouth since then. This is Adams, of course, and he's also being investigated by Bragg, so he makes sure he keeps his mouth shut about Bragg. This is when they have things on you, you do that. You ever see me shut my mouth up about anything? Of course, they try to frame you like they're doing, like Fannie Ho-Ho is doing. But I think Fannie Ho-Ho may be in jail before that case goes anywhere. She's got another whole appeal to have to go through. And the judge in Florida, Judge Cannon, she's got the guy by the tail, doesn't she? And that guy's a bad guy, Smith. He's got a whole record of doing this before. So now they caught this guy Bratt lying under oath. It looks like they have screwed around with all the exhibits. I don't know if they don't have chain of custody, they're gonna have to drop the case. And then we're gonna have to figure out how he screwed around with the classified documents. And who did he show them to? It sounds like one of the groups that he showed them to didn't have clearance. That's what you're prosecuting Trump for. Not even. Trump just had possession. You didn't prosecute it. Gee, Smith, maybe you should go to jail first. Then you can come out and prosecute the case. This has turned out to be a disaster because it's a frame-up. This is Russian collusion. More complicated, but it's Russian collusion. The beginning, Hillary Clinton, 1.1 million to make up a false story about Trump, to stop him, and then to displace a lawfully elected president with a fraudulent story. Now, 4 indictments in 1 year, orchestrated that way by the White House. I think you can bring them all back to the White House now. With Colangelo, Biden's number 3 guy in the Justice Department, sent there to prosecute the case. This is another Biden case, not Bragg, directed by Biden. The Smith cases are clearly Biden cases. Garland wouldn't have selected Smith if he wanted an honest prosecutor. The Supreme Court opinion explains how dishonorable and dishonest he is. So he knew he was getting exactly what he wanted, a guy who would frame Trump. And then what do you think? What do you think the trips to the White House by Fannie's lover boy were for? Washington tours, or to fix the case so that it would fit in just nicely with 4 indictments in 1 year, so you could interfere in his running for president? No. As I said, Al Capone didn't have 4 indictments in 1 year. 4 indictments aren't because he committed crimes. The 4 indictments are to interfere in his running for office. Meanwhile, you don't know the amount of pressure they put on to go after all the people who fight for him, like Steve Bannon and me, and constantly making complaints, constantly trying to shut me up, constantly trying to threaten me. Go to hell. Go to hell. I'm going to die fighting for my country, not caving into you. I mean, I've lost numerous friends who are afraid to even be associated with me. Very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. Personally, enormously hurtful, particularly when, to the extent that any of this has been clarified at all, I've always turned out to be right. And they won't stand still for the fact that I'm right about the rest of it. If I wasn't lying about the hard drive, if I wasn't lying about Russian collusion, why the heck would I be lying about stolen election? And why would you want to stop me from talking about it, since the only way you're going to prevent it is by talking about it? I mean, they turned out to be lying for 4 years about Russian collusion. I turned out to be telling the truth for 4 years about Russian collusion. They turned out to be lying about my being a Russian pawn, which they told for 17 months. They had to admit it. I turned out to be telling it's the same people. It's the same people who are bringing these cases who did that. I'm the same person that told the truth. But I'm the scary one to be associated with. You get sued. You could lose money. I know that in the big, vast America, because when you get out of the big cities and the corrosive effect of money and power and all of that, there's a lot more character in America. It gets worn down in Washington and in New York and places like that, and you see fewer honorable people. That's why New York has been a corrupt city for 150 years. I'm not even sure I'm right about the fact it's easier or not easier, because when I say that, I take something away from the people who are able to hold their honor and be loyal to their friends. And there are some. And I think when we get beyond these evil centers of power, where power and money become so important, and status, and I think we get more, Ted. And I do know one of the things we have to do is bring God back, really bring him back. We need his guidance and his help, and we never should have let them throw God out of America, which is they did. They threw God out of America, and they threw free speech out of America. They threw freedom of religion out of America. And now they're in the process of, they've taken away the children from the parents to a very large extent. And now they're in the process of completely destroying the most wonderful and fairest system of justice in the world. How much more are we going to let them do before we decisively and enthusiastically and strongly and bravely and fight back and stop being afraid, huh? You know, somebody probably wrote this from Franklin Roosevelt, because the guy sure as hell is part of the problem. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. That's not true. It's not the only thing you have to fear. That's a cute line from a man who was a very, very flawed human being and did very good things, but also introduced communism in a big way into our government, and also sold out Eastern Europe in a big way. Big way. Fell in love with Uncle Joe, and Churchill warned him, but Churchill probably wasn't aware of the communist influence around Roosevelt. Republicans were crucified for bringing that out, but you know, it was true then and it's true now. And you see the Iranian spy around Biden, who they're not turning over any documents about, or, I mean, you got to figure there had to be some spies for Biden and Obama to give all this money to terrorists, right? So only way we're going to face this is by having courage. And to say the only thing to fear is fear itself is silly. It's a silly statement. Fear is real. They really can kill you. They really can destroy you. They can really put you in bankruptcy. They can really make your life miserable. The question is, how strong are you And how convinced are you that the principles you're fighting for are the right ones and the necessary ones? I mean, ultimately, it's you looking in the mirror at night and judging yourself with God. And sometimes that's going to be terribly contrary to the world. And can you stick with it? And is there enough of you that can? We're going to get ourselves through this. Because it's the principles of our founding fathers that should guide us. And the big ones are freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Anybody telling people to shut up should be told to shut up themselves. And anybody telling people, yeah, just talk and we'll discuss it. I'll debate anybody on my views. Just don't cut me off from saying it. You want to cut me down? Fine. Just give me an opportunity to reply. You want to talk to me about the $145 million judgment? Let me show the tapes that they doctored. They didn't even have a trial. And then I was told that if I testified in my damages portion of the case, I could be held in contempt. And I had a judge that could only be regarded in a very nice way as bloodthirsty. She was unhappy about the sentences given to the January 6th defendants. What kind of trial do you think I was going to get? Anything approaching fair? So you got to be able to stand up, stick with it, and trust that God is going to bring us all through this. I worry about the case in New York because I know how prejudiced the juries in the District of Columbia are. I'll give you a stat, not a feeling. They've had about 100 trials of J6 people, and nobody's been acquitted fully. Not a one. And the District of Columbia is a pretty awful U.S. Attorney's Office. They lose about 40% of their cases. We lost about 5. And that was a real disaster when we did. When you're blowing about 40% of your cases and you do 100 in a row, something's wrong. And when you look at those judges, you're getting to see what they're like now with the big guy. But as the big guy says, if they can do it to me, they can do it to you. And they are doing it to you. They're doing it to the woman who protests abortion because she's a very devout Catholic, Protestant, Jew. And they think it's necessary to bring Gestapo-like troops there to arrest her. Now, they get real upset when you compare it to the Gestapo. I don't know, stop looking like it. And when the hell does the FBI show up with machine guns? I don't know, this isn't, Machine Gun Kelly time. FBI shows up with machine guns for Roger Stone and leaks it to CNN so we can have a major, so CNN can get like 2 people to watch it. We got a lot to fix, and we got only one chance to do it, and that's going to be in November. So get started now. Volunteer to get out the vote early. Let's start on day 1. Let's get out more voters than the Democrats do, huh? Let's not let them steal the election from us again. Let's not even have any fear that's going to be the case. We're going to outwork them. And if we see them cheating, we're going to turn them in. We're going to take pictures of them and turn them in. You know, they want to get rid of the cameras at all the Zuckerberg baskets because it might frighten people. I like cameras out at night. Why would you be frightened of a camera showing you putting ballots in a machine? Why would you, if you're the governor of Georgia, Mr. Kemp, never be willing to show anyone the paper that the ballots were written on if you tell us that the election was perfect? Because if we got the ballots, we'd be able to prove that a number of them were done after the election, that they aren't on the same paper as the ballots that were official, that some of them were done by machines in, we believe, a factory not too far away. Just from that paper, we could prove much of that. We could also figure out where the paper came from. Maybe you get a couple of rats there if they ever thought the government was really interested in prosecuting this. But Barr made it clear that they weren't. And then when you say, how could the president have thought that the election was stolen when Bill Barr told him it wasn't? How could the president possibly comprehend how Bill Barr sat on the hard drive for a year while he was unfairly impeached? And when lying Joe Biden got up and said that the hard drive had earmarks of Russian collusion and was procured by his pal Rudy Giuliani, the Russian pawn, when he knew, Barr knew it was untrue. Why did he keep his fat mouth shut? And we're going to rely on him telling us the truth about the election? Do I look stupid? Does Trump look stupid? I'm telling you this so it doesn't happen again. And there are people that want to stop me from doing it. Screw them. My country's too important. Their motives may be good or bad. But the most important thing is that we have a free and fair election. These people have a history of cheating. They're going to try to cheat again. Don't fool yourself. Don't be intimidated by any of these people. They did it before. They can do it again. If the election in Georgia were straight, they would have produced the paper. And they didn't, for a good reason. If the election were straight, they would not have doctored the tapes they sent to get me crucified as a lawyer. 12 hours, all different places, 3 hours missing. They rejiggered a continuous time track so that you could only pick it up if you looked at the lower time track that they forgot to erase. Took a while to find it. And once we found it, Ted and I were shocked at the way in which they had distorted this. And it turns out that what was left out are roughly the areas where the incriminating conduct took place. Although, stupidly, they left enough so you can see that they were doing what I said. But they won't show it to you. Just like they won't show you all the video on January 6th. And every time you see it, you see the cops ushering people in. And you see the cops doing the tear gas. And all the stories they told about it that day turned out to be untrue. Why is that? Is that the case? Why do they lie about a police officer being killed that day and bury him in state? I'm happy he got buried in state, but the guy died of natural causes the day later. It's their coroner. Wow. Well, you need to know these things so that we take our country back from the fascists who now have it, and the president who's caused more innocent death than any American president that I can think of without a war. Just count the Ukraine right in there, right? So pray for the people of Israel who are now at the point where they're told if they go any further in eliminating Hamas, America will pull out on them. Even though Biden himself has said that America should never, ever make such demands on an ally. But of course, does that mean anything if Biden said it? Of course not. It's not worth the paper it's written on. The man is probably the biggest liar that ever inhabited the White House, I hope. But what he's doing to our friend Israel is unpardonable, unforgivable, and once again, going to cost lives. So Hamas, they've killed 15,000 of them. There's another 20,000 left. If he can cut off the war right now, he will assure the fact that they got at least 20,000 plus all their rich people that he's allowed Qatar to stash away. Biden has allowed Qatar to stash away. He'll have them ready to reorganize themselves to kill more Jews in a year or two. Hopefully, he will not be in the White House. Then he'll be in another house. And there'll be a president who will really defend Israel and not try to stop Israel from defending itself and getting rid of the people who have had thousands of years of an oath to kill them, which is right in their holy book. So that's where we are. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people of the United States. And God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to